Hello, my name is Franz Gilbert, and I have the sincere pleasure of welcoming you to the HR Technology Conference, where Deloitte is hosting an amazing booth where we've invited clients and providers to come in and tell fantastic stories of how they're using HR technology to meet their strategic business goals. And so today, I'd really like to introduce you to Mike and Jennifer, and I'm going to let you do your fuller introductions, but I'm really looking forward to hearing your story today. Do you want to start first?
Sure. I'm Jennifer Rodibaugh. I'm the Director of Organizational Capabilities at Constellation Brands, and that means I run organizational design. We're really focused on workforce planning right now, as well as helping our business adopt emerging capabilities within organizations.
That's fantastic. And?
Franz, great to be here. Mike Bobek. So I look after our partnerships at Orgvue, and one of the roles I get to play is managing our strategic alliance with Deloitte. And really excited to be here because all of my career, whether it's in consulting or tech, I've had the opportunity to work with clients to help them execute their big, large transformation projects and help them build capability around org design, workforce planning.
Yeah, and when we were preparing for this, the thing that fascinated me is when people look to do organizational design changes, they can often be too big, too unwieldy. It can turn into an IO psychology exercise. And you've got an amazing story of how you've actually really figured out how to do this well. And so, normally there's questions, but I'd much rather just give you the stage and walk us through your journey, because you've been amazing in terms of how you've done it.
Yeah, so I came from change management communications background. I was doing a big SAP implementation, and I was kind of burned out from that. And my boss at the time said, great, you can start this organizational design and capabilities function that we've been talking about. Because I'd been doing a lot of projects where I was like, wouldn't it be great if we had someone who just ran org design projects? And she said, that'll be you. So starting from scratch, we knew we needed a design tool to do the modeling. Nothing that we were doing at the time was really outside of PowerPoints, and maybe some Excel files if we were lucky. We knew we had a Workday, all the data in one place, which was great, so we wanted to start from there. We also wanted to make sure we brought our HR teams along with this. They understood a methodology. We followed the STAR model from Jay Galbraith, so that's a pretty standard approach, and really just from there started building our own model according to what the company needed. So then right now we're in the process of training our HR managers on how to do smaller organizational design work so we can empower them to work with the business to do that. And then we tackle the bigger stuff that's more complex, multifunctional, cross-division, company-wide.
Right.
And then we'll work with internal folks. We brought in Orgvue to make sure that we could use a tool that was very powerful. Mm-hmm. It's probably more than we needed up front, but we knew where we were going.
Right.
And in order to get there, we partnered with them to stand up the whole modeling tool.
And so what was it specifically about Orgvue in terms of the capability they brought that you're like, this actually made it really easy?
I wouldn't say it was easy for us, because we were starting from the basics, but we knew we needed to have not just moving boxes in between functions or creating new boxes. It was really more about the data behind it. Could we analyze the spans and layers? Could we pull in all of the financials and be able to show a leader, show our HR team what it's going to cost to do this type of work? And then we also worked with Orgvue and Deloitte to figure out really what the next 18 months would look like to do something like a standard rapid org assessment. And we put that in place with Deloitte's help and figuring out with Orgvue, what are all the parameters that we wanted to have in place? What should this look like? And standardize it so we could go to the business and have some more of that consultative approach versus just reactionary when people were, hey, we need an operating model, or I'm reorganizing my team. Right. We wanted to get in front of that.
So if you don't mind, just a question kind of out of the blue, but we're surrounded on the floor right now with everyone that's got generative AI, agents, and all this, and so we know there's going to be work redesign going on. You obviously have spent an amazing time building out a function that's done this. For our viewers, what's like one or two things, or if you're saying, if I'm going to go build a team that does this, what are one or two competencies you're like, this was really important?
Oh, I love that question. I was looking for a unicorn to help me with standing up this function, somebody who understood a lot of data. They had the ability to analyze it and provide insights, and had maybe an HR background. So I was able to find a person, and I hired her into the team. She had a military background. She ran she did some private or public sector work, so she was working with huge data sets. So that was a must-have. And then somebody else on the team who understood capabilities, how to think about defining, assessing, training employees on it. So those were the skills that we were looking for.
That's fantastic.
If I could just add to that, I mean, I think historically we would look at things like people analytics, org design, and workforce planning as very separate and discrete teams and roles that exist, and I think what we're seeing more of is a convergence of those things coming together, because it's really difficult to execute an org design project or even workforce planning unless you've got the analytical know-how and capability. And so it's an observation on our end, and some of the things that we're partnering with Constellation on and with Deloitte in our alliance is how do we bring the breadth of capability together around understanding deeply the analytics behind the workforce, some of the challenges around more immediate term org design, and then longer term thinking around the workforce plan. So your story around the talent you're bringing in, it hits home, right?
Yeah.
And let's keep on going with this, because one of the areas that I've been passionate about my entire career has been workforce planning, but it's such a challenging area. I mean, we kind of jokingly say if your number one competitor is a spreadsheet, we have a problem. You're taking a really innovative view on it in kind of helping advance things. Tell us a little bit more what you're doing in terms of workforce planning that's different.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. I mean, first, if you just look at the difference between org design and workforce planning, I think they're both trying to solve the same broad question, which is how do you set up the workforce to drive your strategy? But org design is more historically around the organizing constructs around the workforce, whereas workforce planning tends to be more of, do I have the right type of resource and the right quantity of resource to execute? And I think what we're trying to do and what we've seen is this acknowledgement that org design and workforce planning can't be completely and utterly separated in all cases. What we find interesting also is, historically the owner of org design is a bit more well-defined. It's in HR, right? That's where the core competency exists. In workforce planning, you might see it in finance, you might see it in the heart of the business and operations, you might see it in procurement from a contingent workforce planning perspective. Now you're starting to see HR build up that capability. So I think as a market around this, people are still trying to think about how do we get these various constituents who have different desires and needs and interests in workforce planning, and to do that in a consistent way. And the way that we're approaching it is you need to be flexible. You need to be flexible with how you think about specific issues related to the workforce and how you might leverage org design or workforce planning to solve some of those questions versus a rigid process.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. First of all, thank you so much for being a client. Thank you for being a partner of ours that we've done a lot of work with, so thank you very much. And we really appreciate you being here at the HR Technology Conference with us.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
All right.